Hello and welcome to the New World Review, your source for everything anime and manga, and guess what? Today we're not going to be talking about Hunter x Hunter, so we're actually making good on the tagline of the channel with this very video. And this time we are branching out with a blind review of Black Clover. And a lot of people have been telling me to either read or watch this for quite some time now, like we're talking years. And I've always kind of pushed it to the side because whilst there were many people trying to convince me to get into Black Clover, there were an equal amount of people telling me to stay far away from it. And usually when there's some kind of division of opinion, I tend to land on the more critical side after experiencing the series, so why even bother starting it, yeah? But at the same time, that is no way to live life, so here we are with a blind review of the first arc of Black Clover, which as far as I'm aware is just called Arc 1. I couldn't find a name for it, which was disappointing, and if it does have a name, then please do let me know down in the comments below, because I think this is utter madness. But whatever the case, if you're a fan of Black Clover, a hater of the series, or even if you've never heard of it, then I do encourage you to stay a while and listen, because it's an interesting little thing. Also, please do make sure to like this video and or subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stuff like this. Looking at those metrics is the only solid way I can judge that you guys want to see more, because I probably won't be reading too many comments for fear of spoilers, so go ahead and do the thing. Oh, and just one more thing before we begin, I am reading the Black Clover manga, which at this stage has presented me with 10 mighty chapters. I might also watch the anime afterwards, but right now the manga suits me just fine. And if you're seeing anime clips or screenshots, that's because I'm not editing this video, so say hi to Darkerai, who is my editor for this one. But kicking off with the premise, this is a boy with a dream series. In this case, we have our main child thing, Asta, who harbors the dream of one day becoming the Wizard King. There's multiple problems with this, of course, one being that Asta is but a poor lad who lives in a village that nobody cares about and probably even knows exists. And Wizard Kings are generally selected from nobility in the nicer place of the world, or at least that's the impression we've been given. So he already has quite an uphill battle ahead, but Asta comes equipped with a second detriment, which is that he is entirely unable to use magic. And that is important in Black Clover, because this realm, which you can probably tell by a title like Wizard King, well, everything is more or less dictated entirely by magic, and if you have no magic, well, you're pretty screwed, son. And I think that premise is super easy to get on board with. You can call it a bit generic, I guess, because I'm sure that most of us can immediately think of a series with the exact same framework. You know, the talentless and or powerless young boy who wants to be the best at the thing in which they do in the world. Like Deku wanting to be a hero but not having a quirk in My Hero Academia, or Naruto from the acclaimed series, Naruto. The premise is generic for a reason though, because it is a tried and tested formula. I knew that I had seen chapter 1 of Black Clover play out several times before, but I was still pretty easily captured. Like when you see just how much of a loser Asta is, and I guess how useful everyone else around him is, it makes me want to see Asta succeed. The antithesis of which is the theme of the very first chapter. 99% of it focuses on Asta failing over and over again. The most embarrassing moment of which is when he attends, I honestly forget what it's called, but some sort of like ceremony whereby 15-year-olds get their grimoires. Grimoires are important. But of course, none of the funky books are attracted to Asta because, well, he sucks. However, by the end of the chapter, the inevitable thing happens, and what's this? A very unique and suspicious grimoire appears at Asta's moment of need and saves him from first chapter bad guy. And that grimoire is marked with a 5-leaf clover, a black clover as well, which I have been told by the series that a literal devil resides in that their 5th leaf. And at this point, I don't quite know how true that is, but it made for one hell of an image, pun intended, and I'm quite interested by this. I tend to enjoy any time our standard protagonists are saddled with darker powers that they may or may not need to struggle against as much as any external enemy. That really doesn't solve much though, because Asta is not granted magical powers through his 5-leaf grimoire. He actually gets something that I think is much more better. It allows him to wield anti-magic in the form of a sword, and yes, I'm down with this. To contrast, I think one of the things that slightly disappointed me about My Hero Academia is that I really wanted to see Deku become a hero without a quirk. Maybe like a Batman or something. So after he got the quirk, I was just a bit like, eh. But I do very much like the Black Clover solution thus far. It doesn't incorporate Asta into the world of magic. In fact, it goes to great lengths to separate him from it. And I like that because it makes Asta immediately more interesting than any of the magic wielders I've seen thus far. Although I don't know, surely anti-magic is magic, right? Even so, nobody seems to expect it, and as such, it's been satisfying to see Asta cut down some fools. But the other thing chapter 1 does is establish a very important relationship between Asta and Yuno. And this is actually what breaks the first chapter shonen mold a bit. Asta and Yuno were both abandoned as children in the very same place on the very same day, no less, and I imagine they grew up sort of as brothers, and more recently as rivals, because both of them want to become the illustrious Wizard King. And Yuno is the polar opposite of Asta. He is ridiculously ridiculously talented with the magics, absurdly good looking, cool under all circumstances, and the parallels continue, as I'm sure they will for quite some time to come. In fact, even when they eventually join their wizard magic squadrons, Yuno ends up with the Golden Dawn squad, who are the bestest at the things, and Asta ends up becoming part of the very looked down upon Black Bull squad. But there is a distinct dynamic happening here. Asta is being surrounded by darkness and devil-related things, whilst Yuno appears to be going in the opposite direction with a more heavenly quality. In fact, I'm going to try and call it now. Yuno is some kind of nobility, right? I don't know, it's just the way that this series has gone to some great lengths to state that nobles are just naturally far more powerful and amazing by default, and it would further the juxtaposition between Yuno and Asta. You know, Asta, the poor village boy, and Yuno, the long-lost son of like a wizard king or something. Then again, there is also another character who goes on to serve that role opposite Asta, so who knows? But here's the thing about Yuno. In most other stories, this character is a bit of a dick. He's someone who the author will encourage you to dislike, at least at first, in order to get us more on board with the protagonist. But it's not like that at all. Yuno actually sees potential in Asta and respects him as a rival due to their childhood. So I like him. I like both of them, and I hope that they maintain this brotherhood throughout the series. But then again, they've got to come into conflict at some point, right? As for Asta himself, look, he's kind of a blank canvas to me. I identify more with his stereotype right now than I do with him as an actual person. I like what he represents, but I have yet to see anything that distinguishes him from the vast sea of shonen protagonists, except that he seems to yell. He seems to yell a lot, and I really hope that isn't his crowning unique character trait. But beyond chapter 1, we progress into the much more interesting world of wizardry. Asta and Yuno are taking the Magic Knight's entrance exam, and as expected, Yuno does amazingly in every single test, whilst Asta sucks and makes an embarrassment out of himself yet again. I mean in all but one area. That area being combat, where Asta gets to take down bro McShitface, and that feat, along with proudly claiming that he will be the Wizard King once again, earns the attention of the best character I've met so far, who is Yami. This man is entertaining in every single panel he's in, and he is the leader of the Black Bull squad, the kind of outcast of the Magic Knights. The weird cousins nobody wants to talk about, let alone invite to the family reunions. But this is perfect for Asta because as an outcast himself, he is absolutely at home with these goofy weirdos. Before that though, as stated before, Yuno becomes indoctrinated into the Golden Dawn squad, who is led by this guy, who is not the Wizard King, but pretty damn powerful nonetheless. Or I don't know, maybe he is the Wizard King, I don't know. He's wearing a mask after all, and masks are suspicious. I get some real bad guy vibes from him, but whatever. As such, we now lose Yuno, but gain a shocking amount of weird people to fill his place. Asta gets taken to the Black Bull's housing facility, I don't know if it has a real name, where quirky shenaniganry ensues and reminds me very much of the guild introduction to Fairy Tail. And I'm going to be honest, I really don't remember too many of these Black Bull guys and gals, apart from the half-naked boozy ho who actually throws up around Asta, which is kind of funny. Oh, and I guess there's Magnus Swing, I think that's his name, the hothead character who allows Asta to display his true powers in anti-magic. And I guess I like him enough. Characters like him are probably better presented in anime form because they get that vocal range to play with and build a character through voice alone. I do, however, care much more about Noelle. I alluded to her before, but she is an interesting character. Unlike Asta, who was a poor lad willing to accept whatever came his way, Noelle is a lady of nobility. Great things were expected of her, but she had to settle for the worst squad because they turned out to be the only ones that would take her. So another great dichotomy here between Noelle and Asta, and I especially like the scene near the end of the first arc where the two of them were discussing money. And it's just so clear that Noelle doesn't understand the value of money despite being absolutely loaded with it. Meanwhile, Asta's like, well, with this tiny amount I could do this, this, and this. And there's also a stark contrast with magic, of course. As a member of fine nobility, Noelle is, well, responsible for I think the greatest magic power I've seen depicted so far. And her problem is she can't control it, which is something I greatly enjoy. Characters without flaws are incredibly boring, and Noelle's flaw is in perfect balance to her talent. All the power in the world, but completely incapable of wielding it properly. That works for me. And I guess it works as a final counter to Asta as well, because Noelle seems to be something of an epitome of magic, whilst Asta is the epitome of, I guess, anti-magic. It's very similar to the Asta-Yuno dynamic, actually, and I'm wondering if Noelle and Yuno might flip roles in the future. You know, Yuno becomes corrupted by nobility, resources, and power and stuff, whilst Noelle learns to be far more humbled and appreciate the smaller things in life. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't even be trying to analyze things a mere 10 chapters in, but here we are. But to bring this first arc to a climax, we of course had an action-packed Mage Mission, which weirdly enough was probably my least favorite part, mostly because I didn't care about the villains. I don't even remember his name, it was something English, but Ice Guy had a fairly boring design, and he displayed very little in terms of character except for standing upright, being stoic, and being loyal. Oh, and also being quiet, being very quiet. And these kind of characters are the absolute worst because it's a perfect combination of sweet FA to latch onto from my perspective. There was no opening anywhere to become invested in either liking or even disliking this guy. Right now, I still don't quite know how to feel about him. I'm just so neutral. But I guess I did like the way he was brought down with some cool teamwork and determination. And also after that, Asta gets both a rock and a bird. The rock is apparently important. I don't know why. I imagine I will soon enough. I really like the bird though, and I wonder if there's something more to that, because earlier on in the arc there was a fun bit of comedy about how certain birds will attack people if they have low magic potency. So of course all of the birds immediately flock towards Asta, and the same thing has sort of happened here. A mysterious bird has been attracted to our plucky young anti-mage, and I don't care why it happened because I love this bird. And to conclude the arc, we have a rather enjoyable epilogue where we get to visit the noble realm, which is about what you'd expect. Cobblestone everywhere and everything, and plenty of street clerks as well. The most interesting part though is the very unexpected reveal of the Wizard King himself, who takes note of Asta in a way that no adult should ever look at a child. And while he does set up either the very next arc or a meta-narrative, I can't help but feel a bit underwhelmed by his random appearance. I personally come from the One Piece school of thinking that I like keeping key figures in the shadows for long periods of time before an eventual revelation, but in Black Clover we've now already revealed the ultimate wizard bro, as well as seeing quite a few of the squad captains during the entrance exam, like Yami, William. Like, we saw at least 7 of them, and possibly more, and I'm just like, slow down. Build your house up one brick at a time. Save these guys for something more dramatic. Because now that we've seen the Wizard King, that's great, we have a roof for our house, but we don't have any walls to hold it up. That might just be a me thing though, a lot of things are me things. In any case, that's our introduction to Black Clover. It's a series that really could go one of 2 ways to me. Either it could exceed all expectations and develop into an above average shonen journey, which is what I'm hoping for. However, it could also land in a very middling to mediocre place. The genericism does worry me quite a bit, but at the same time, you really can't judge a shonen series by the first handful of chapters. So if you'd like to see me keep going, you know the thing that it is you need to do. But that pretty much does it for this blind review of Black Clover's introductory arc. And what do you guys think? Please do leave your thoughts in the comments below, or even join my Discord server. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for very maybe Black Clover goodness delivered straight into your YouTube feed. But for now, this has been the New World Review, and I'll see you next time.